Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. Reference to Facebook, I think, David, you were going second. Is that correct?
I think Mike was going to go second.
All right. Okay. Well, then I'll switch. I'll do a different segue.
There wasn't really a good segue.
There is a good segue, and the segue is that while Google is dominant in local, there is another cowboy in town that is largely under the radar, and they are flexing their wings. And is that a mixed metaphor? It probably is. But regardless,
wing flexing.
Yeah. Regardless, I've been spending a lot of time since the release of Apple iOS 15 in September. I've been spending a lot of time looking at it, doing a presentation for Local U and a report I'm doing for Near Media next week, looking at Apple's move into the discovery aspect of local. In iOS 15, they had a number of new features in Maps, including new place cards, enhanced guides, new filtering options on category searches, and a new Explore layer in the Maps, which is explicitly about discovery. And when I went to look at analytics, and Apple is largely dark in analytics, but I looked at a number of businesses, and what I found was on average, 5% of their website traffic was coming from dark Apple traffic, which meant that it was likely coming from an Apple reference point of some sort. Maybe Maps, maybe the other local search features they have. And in some categories, like hotels, restaurants, and spas, it was as high as 20%. And if you assume that some of that 20% is coming from Maps, then you also have to assume there's even more activity occurring directly on Maps where they're just calling. So that Apple is now sending a fair bit of traffic, I saw more traffic from Apple than I saw from Yelp or Facebook on every site, regardless of the type of site. And Apple has started to, after many years of fixing the map, so it was decent at navigation and now has become pretty good at business recovery. They're starting to move into the discovery mode with enhanced user interface and features. And I think it's interesting. And I think that it portends a long-term direction for Apple, because they never do anything like Google where they throw it at the wall and then they scrape it off 6 weeks later. Apple builds it one brick at a time. And so I see this brick building in Maps as indicator of a strong commitment to discovery and using Maps for discovery in going forward.
Yeah, and it's a real acceleration over the last year of the bricklaying, right? I mean, we've seen the I don't know if you'd call it a radical overhaul or whatever of Apple Maps Connect, the reviews announcement not too many weeks ago, and then these new iOS features. It seems like Apple really is serious about local at this point. And to your point, Mike, it's, sort of a hidden underneath the surface kind of iceberg situation, even with if it's 5% traffic, right? I mean, think about how much traffic you get directly from GMB versus the number of leads that GMB is responsible for. You theoretically should apply that same math to that dark traffic from Apple. Right. So,
and I've heard from a number of independent sources over the last month that Apple will be releasing local insights, at least through their larger partners, in the near future, early 2022. And I heard this from totally unrelated conversations. So I tend to believe it. I mean, it wasn't the nature of the conversation, but I think Apple is going to start providing metrics around this, at least to some of their bigger partners, which I think will accelerate the understanding that it's having a role to play, perhaps larger than Yelp, larger than Facebook, and second only to Google in terms of discovery. And I think it plays into their bigger dream of the future, which would segue over to you, David.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.